There was once a city that contained the entire knowledge of the human race. Every book ever written, every map ever drawn, every scientific discovery ever recorded, all of it collected, cataloged, and stored in a single building on the coast of Egypt. That city was Alexandria, and for nearly 1,000 years, it was the most extraordinary place on Earth. This is what it actually looked like. Close your eyes and stand on the Mediterranean coast of Egypt. The year is 300 BC. The air smells of salt and cedar wood and the ink of 10,000 scrolls. Before you stretches a city that should not exist, a planned metropolis rising from flat Egyptian desert with a speed and ambition that seemed to defy nature itself. Wide boulevards, 30 meters across, cutting through the city in perfect grids. Marble colonnades lining every major street, palaces facing the sea, temples to gods from 3 different civilizations standing within walking distance of one another. And rising at the harbor's edge, a lighthouse so tall that sailors claim to see its light from 50 kilometers out at sea. A lighthouse so extraordinary that it became one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Alexandria was not a city that grew organically over centuries. It was imagined in a single mind, planned on a single sheet of papyrus, and built with the resources of the wealthiest empire on Earth. That mind belonged to Alexander the Great. And when he died before his city was finished, the kings who inherited his vision poured everything they had into making it real. What they built changed human history forever. In 331 BC, Alexander personally walked the site, directing where the major streets should run, where the palace quarter should sit, where the harbors should be positioned. According to ancient sources, he used barley grain to mark the city's outlines on the ground because he had no chalk. When birds descended and ate the grain, his advisors called it a bad omen. Alexander interpreted it as a sign of abundance, that the city would feed the world. He was right. He never saw it completed. Within 8 years, he was dead in Babylon, aged 32. But his general Ptolemy seized Egypt and made Alexandria his capital. And the Ptolemaic dynasty that followed poured 3 centuries of royal ambition and Egyptian wealth into building the city Alexander had imagined. What they built was beyond anything he could have dreamed. Walk into Alexandria at its height, around 200 BC, and you would find yourself in a city of perhaps 1 million people. Rome at this period had perhaps 300,000 inhabitants. The city was built on a narrow strip of land between the Mediterranean Sea to the north and Lake Mareotis to the south, giving it 2 harbors. The main street, the Canopic Way, ran the full length of the city from east to west, 30 meters wide. The scale of this avenue alone would have stunned any visitor from the ancient world. To the northeast lay the royal quarter, an entire district of palaces, gardens, and administrative buildings, covering perhaps 1/3 of the city's total area. Beside the palace rose the museum, a place where the greatest minds of the ancient world were invited to live, eat, debate, and work at royal expense, freed from all financial concerns. And beside the museum stood the library. The Royal Library of Alexandria was the most ambitious intellectual project in human history. Its founding purpose was breathtaking: collect every book ever written, every scroll in existence, every text in every language from every civilization on Earth. Ships arriving in Alexandria's harbor were searched. Any scrolls found on board were confiscated, copied, and returned, with the copy given to the owner and the original kept by the library. At its peak, the library held between 400,000 and 700,000 scrolls. The entire recorded intellectual output of human civilization up to that point gathered in a single building. Eratosthenes calculated the circumference of the Earth using shadows and geometry and got it right to within a few percent of the actual figure. This was the 3rd century BC. Aristarchus of Samos proposed, right here in Alexandria, that the Earth orbited the Sun 17 centuries before Copernicus. 17 centuries. The knowledge was here. It was known. And then, slowly, catastrophically, it was lost. But before we reach the ending, stand at the harbor's edge and look up. The Pharos of Alexandria rose to a height of between 100 and 140 meters. Built between 280 and 247 BC by the architect Sostratus of Cnidus, a great fire burned continuously, night and day, reflected and amplified by polished bronze mirrors. Sailors 50 kilometers out at sea could navigate by its light. The harbor it guarded was the greatest commercial port in the ancient world. At its peak, Alexandria handled perhaps a third of all Mediterranean trade. The grain of Egypt, the food supply that kept Rome fed, passed through this harbor in an endless convoy of grain ships sailing north. In return came wine from Greece, silver from Spain, silk from the distant east, timber from Lebanon, and luxury goods from every corner of the known world. Stand on the harbor's edge, and you would hear the languages of 20 civilizations spoken simultaneously. It was the most cosmopolitan place on Earth, and it was beautiful. But nothing lasts, not even Alexandria. The library did not burn in a single dramatic fire, as legend sometimes claims. It declined over centuries, underfunded, neglected, damaged by successive political upheavals. Julius Caesar accidentally burned part of it in 48 BC. Later rulers allowed it to slowly fade. By the 4th century AD, the great collection was gone. The Pharos survived longer, guiding ships into Alexandria's harbor for nearly 15 centuries. But earthquakes in the 14th century finally toppled it. Its stones were used to build a medieval fortress that still stands at the harbor's edge today. The city itself transformed, conquered by Rome, by Arab armies, by Napoleon, by the British Empire. Alexandria changed its face with each new master, while keeping its essential soul. Stand on the Alexandria waterfront today, and the Mediterranean still stretches north toward the same horizon that Ptolemy's engineers surveyed 2,000 years ago. The harbor is still there. The city is still there, home now to 5 million people. A legendary past alive in a living port. And in 2002, a new library was built, the Bibliotheca Alexandrina, rising from the waterfront exactly where ancient scholars believe the original library once stood. Its circular roof, designed to represent the sun rising from the sea, holds 8 million books. Not 700,000 scrolls, 8 million books. Perhaps the most fitting tribute the modern world could have offered to the ancient one. The knowledge never truly left. It scattered. It survived in fragments. It traveled through Arab scholars and Byzantine monks and Renaissance printers until it found its way back into the world's hands. Alexandria believed that all human knowledge was worth gathering in one place. They were right about that, too. Subscribe for more and journey through Africa's past.